Hey, I am here with Rafi today to talk TikTok. I am Adam Weiler, founder and CEO of Emplicit. We're a leading marketplace agency for ambitious brands. And you have heard many things about TikTok. You probably even jumped in there and been confused, but we're going to answer your questions today. Rafi, just to set the stage, I was at AMZ Innovate in New York, one of the leading Amazon conferences in the space. I saw a speaker get on stage and absolutely wow the crowd. I believe he won speaker of the event. Don't put words in my mouth. And then later we were sitting at the table and I said, how do we work together? So here we are all the way from Australia. Rafi, why don't you just give the people a little intro about yourself and how you came to become an expert in TikTok?
Awesome. Wow. I mean, you're gassing me up, so I hope I deliver here. So thanks for the intro. So a quick background. I built a couple of my own Amazon brands and I exited those. After that point, and this was a few years back now, I realized where short form content was going and where the ability to harness attention and point it to a destination was going to be increasingly important. And so I bet I spent a bunch of money on kind of dummy inventory to try and figure out how to make TikTok work. And firstly, I started with, trying to work with influencers. Until that point, I had it.
What's dummy inventory, if you can explain?
Like, I just made a really simple brand. I didn't go crazy on it. I'm not trying to it's basically
a test brand.
Product, basically a test tube, a Me Too product with a test brand. And so I wasn't really too worried about it. I just wanted to make it work. And so I focused on trying to make influencers work. And once I was able to do that, I was like, okay, well, TikTok also has this amazing ads platform. Let's see how this works. And obviously there's different rules for that. And then I was able to make that work. And then from there, I realized the organic potential of TikTok and how it's different from all the other platforms that are out there. And that got me really excited. So I wanted to crack that out. And I was able to drive significant traffic to Amazon, which was the kind of the fulfillment bucket that I created for this experiment. I was able to sell out all that inventory, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. And so then I got.
So you're saying a super generic Me Too product, Alibaba to Amazon, back in the early days, but everyone knows that hasn't worked for a while because you haven't been able to work. You're saying you got it to work because of TikTok.
100%.
That's amazing.
What people don't realize is like the connection between TikTok and Amazon purchase has been so well established. Everyone's heard of the TikTok hashtag TikTok made me buy it, which now I think has like 80 billion views.
Wow.
But the Amazon must have that hashtag has about 26 billion views. Amazon Prime had 64.5 billion views. And so people are starting their buying journey on TikTok and then choosing to complete it on Amazon. Except now with TikTok Shop and where you can point it, there's a lot more places they can go. But yeah, that's
amazing.
Validate that.
So for the rest of this episode, I'm gonna put my brand owner's hat on, right? I'm taking off my agency owner's hat and putting my brand owner's hat. Let's say I've got $10 to $15 million D2C business, right? We're on Shopify, we're doing some meta ads, we're doing Instagram, maybe even some Google and YouTube. And I keep hearing my buddies and the forums start talking about TikTok. And I'm like, what's going on there? Isn't that a kid's app? What should I be thinking about TikTok? What should my strategy be for TikTok? And should I be on there right now?
Yes. And it depends. And let's dive into it.
Awesome.
So first, my daughters are on there or my kids are on there. That's true. They probably are. But there's like 113 million active TikTok users monthly, and that's in the US alone. And 53% of those are above the age of 30. And about 31% of them are above the age of 40. And so if your target demographic fits those age ranges, which it likely does, they're on there, they're consuming content. So that's one little piece, because that was.
So can we say, is there a demographic is there a demographic or product that doesn't fit the demographic? Like, is there a product that you're like, this would not work on TikTok?
I think that's the wrong question. It's not about the product. It's about whether the avatar that you're advertising to is on the platform. And so it's such a wide and broad spectrum, is that your avatar will be on there. Now, whether your product works on it, that's a different question. And there's a few best practices that we'll dive into hopefully in this session and dive into that.
Awesome. Okay. So we've established everyone's on there. Should I be on there?
As a brand, yeah, I think you should be. And the way I like to explain TikTok versus, whether it's on Shopify or on Amazon is that it's the ultimate top of funnel awareness lever that you can add in your business. Unlike Amazon that, people are, often solution aware and Amazon is fulfilling demand. On TikTok, you can harness, create demand, and then point it in a direction. And when I'm a user on TikTok and I'm swiping through, what I'm doing as a brand is I'm trying to do interruption marketing. And so I'm getting them at the top of funnel awareness. They might not even be problem aware. And so you're able to get that buyer from there and then point them to somewhere that they can purchase and become aware of your brand. And so the way I would look at it as a brand, if I'm trying to decide, hey, should I be on TikTok or not? Do you want to increase your total addressable market? If the answer is yes, then
Does anyone say no?
I mean, I haven't found someone that does that yet, but
Okay, so it sounds like it's a yes.
Yeah.
What is the next step then? Should I just start buying ads immediately, or I guess what's the foundation to set up correctly?
Yeah, good question. The type of content that works that drives results for businesses. So that means we're talking purchases. We're not talking about vanity metrics like likes and shares and views. We want some actual results. And the types of content that work the best on a platform like TikTok is content that seems native and that's organic. And you probably would have heard this, whether you've seen it on podcasts or you heard it elsewhere. What does that even mean? And so a type of content that's native on TikTok is a type that's not directly selling you a thing. It's not like, hey, buy me this thing. Because if you're usually on TikTok and you see that, the first thing you're going to do is swipe and then move on. It's having your product in your daily life, in your routine, as a POV of what you're doing and utilizing it in your natural life. And that sort of content goes really, really well. So if I was to answer your question, what is my first step? What do I need to do? Paid ads I'd say probably the third thing to do. The first thing would be, hey, I have a product and perhaps I have a product market fit. So for example, I'm selling on Shopify. I have a product market fit. My meta ads are crushing and that works. And on Amazon, I have a product market fit as well. TikTok is a little bit different because you need a product content and market fit. You need to be able to communicate your product effectively on the platform. So before you start putting paid ads behind anything, you need to crack that. And the easiest on-ramp to be able to crack that equation is to work with influencers and affiliates on the platform who are native on that platform and create content for a living.
Okay, so it's not just take the Facebook ad that's been working and adapt it to TikTok.
No, I like extending it with like reverse compatibility. I don't know if you're a gamer or whether you've played PlayStations before, and so you find that you have a PS1 or a PS2 game's not going to play on PS1, but on PS5 there's reverse compatibility. That's similar on this platform as well. The type of content that works really well on TikTok is going to work on Instagram, it's going to work on Facebook, it's going to work on YouTube Shorts, but there's no reverse compatibility. It doesn't go the other way.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so it sounds like I'm going to need new content. If I've never done TikTok before or just dabble with it, I'm going to need new native content to the platform. Okay, where do I go? How do I do that?
Well, what I recommend for people starting completely scratch with short form content is let's not overcomplicate it. There's amazing services like Join Brands, for example. I use them quite a bit, and you can buy like lots of 20 vertical videos at once, and now you have a bank of content.
Yeah, I just want to say we're a premier partner for Join Brands, so if you do, and we get a discount for everything. So happy to hook any listeners up for lots of content.
Yes, brilliant.
Okay, so you go get Join Brands, you get some content, or you go through us to Join Brands, you get some content. Then do what with it?
So when you're creating any type of content, you want to be able to use it and squeeze it and cut it up as much as possible. So what you're trying to find out at this point is how to best communicate my product in this form of content. And so you're not just talking to a creator and saying, hey, just create me a piece of content here. You're making sure that you give them a sandbox in which to play in that makes sure that the type of content you're creating actually yields any result. And there's three major things, and we can go into like more of it. But if I'm creating content for the very first time and I've never created vertical video content, these are the three things that I really want to be seen. I want there to be a strong hook, and I'm going to give examples of what that hook is to my creator. And that's the visual hook. Like, for example, if I have a product, I'm dropping it into form. That's just one hook. It's super simple, but that catches somebody's attention, which is super important. The next piece is I want to show that product in use. I don't want to talk about it. I want to show it. So if I'm saying, hey, this has a handle and this has a turny lid, I'm going to be like, I'm going to hold this handle and show that it's being done. I'm going to show myself doing this. It's such a visual platform.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I think there's real value. I'm going to call this clip or this scene or this episode, wherever we're calling it, I'm going to call this the 0 to 1 for TikTok for D2C brands, right? This is the foundation that you don't hear people talking about. It's like they usually just repurpose a Facebook ad that maybe was working, and they're like, oh, TikTok doesn't work for me. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think once you're able to crack this, you're able to then apply the learnings here across Meta, across all your other ad platforms, and the rest of the brands aren't doing that. So it gives you this amazing competitive moat that no other brands are, or not many other brands are diving deep into. I guess to pick up that thread that I was talking about, the last of those three major things is, and this data comes directly from TikTok itself, 99.29% of the best performing ads have multiple scenes. So for example, if this was a phone and I'm recording a talking head, this is one scene behind me. This is another scene behind me. This is another scene here. And like, it doesn't have to be complicated, but as the best performing ads have multiple scenes. And so if you can factor those three things in and you're talking to a creator on Join Brands, for example, that is, you'd be getting better content than 90% of people that are using Join Brands or any type of content creator relationship to create good content. That would be step one. If I'm starting from scratch, I would do that first.
We're on TikTok. We built out company profile, or am I doing it under my personal? Any preference there?
I'd say a business account, because I'm assuming you want to open up a TikTok shop later, which you'll need to do.
Okay, perfect. And we'll get into that. Company or business account, you've seeded it with some content that you've directed some influencers either on a marketplace or sourced it from, outreach. I guess what's that next step? And this is, like what, how many steps are there? And then, where are we in the journey?
Before I answer that question, I think that a shared context is important for like yourself and anyone who's listening. There's a lot they can do on TikTok, and that's why it becomes a little bit confusing. Like, hey, as a brand, what do I do? And so I like thinking about it in three buckets, and then we'll be able to apply filters for you as a brand, what bucket makes the most sense for you. I see TikTok as a traffic harnessing initiative for your business. Now, you have TikTok Shop, and we'll talk about that later, which is a whole nother thing. But there's three major ways of being able to harness traffic on TikTok. You have borrowed traffic, that's influencer and affiliate content. You have paid traffic, which is the ads you were talking about before. And then you have the amazing organic machine or organic content on TikTok. And depending on where your brand is, as far as a team perspective of where you're starting from, it depends on whether you should do all three, whether you should just start with one or the other. So if I was starting complete from scratch, I haven't done any external marketing at all. Most of my business is coming from Amazon, or it's on Shopify, but Meta ad. I would start with trying to get that product content market fit. And the easiest way of doing that is just working with influencers on that platform.
And that's the borrowed side.
That's the borrowed side. That's borrowed traffic. And that would be the easiest, most cost-effective way for you to get as many lines, like fishing lines, in the water as possible.
And is the limiting factor your team, your internal team and budget, or are there other factors recommending that?
Do you mean recommending borrowed versus
paid? Why not just do all three at once? Is it a capacity issue, or is it, I guess, what's the downside of that?
I think it's really hard to catch three chickens at once, especially the first time chicken hunt, wrangling, right? And so I always recommend borrowed first, because you're leveraging the expertise of the influencers and creators that are already on the platform. Therefore, you shorten your learning curve. And so if you start organic, you might go down this path and realize, 60, 70% of the content you created is worthless because you didn't know what worked. And so if you are able to go to the borrowed route first, you're able to see what content works, and then you're able to give that information to your internal team to then create organic, right? And the difference between the time difference between picking up each of these, it would be like, hey, borrowed is going to be like, a quarter two initiative. And then quarter three is going to be organic and borrowed. And then from that point onward, you can then leverage paid, which I think it's the hardest nut to crack, to be fair on TikTok.
That's awesome.
Scale, I guess.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap up here. We're gonna tease everyone with more stuff incoming because we got a lot of content coming. I think you've seen and heard Rafi talk. You realize why he's special and why I needed to have him as part of Emplicit. And he is running TikTok strategy for the agency, right? So if you hire us to run TikTok for you because of Rafi's ability and the team's ability to execute, we can do all this for you. Or you can just take this and run it with it yourself. There's gonna be no secrets held back. We're gonna show you everything. And at some point you're like, wow, that's really hard. I want Emplicit to run it for us. So be on the lookout for more content. It's dropping soon. Rafi, tease everyone with a little sneak preview of like what's after they get borrowed working.
I love that. So firstly, I'm super excited. So I hope you guys are joining the next episodes that do come on. And if there are any questions you want to double click on, let us know in the comments. That would be super useful. I think the three things to look out for. We're going to be double clicking on the exact how to find influencers, making sure they create content that will actually work, and then how to cut it up and how to use it so that you can really get as much juice out of this lemon as possible. We're going to be diving into what are the parts of organic traffic that make the most sense and how that links to TikTok Shop. And then lastly, we're going to dive into how TikTok Shop has really changed the e-commerce landscape and how it's probably one of the best opportunities I've seen in the last 5 to 8 years as far as e-commerce is concerned.
Badass. Rafi, episode 1, more to come. Thanks everyone.
Have a good one.